Yo, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. I'm your host, Jose Rocks, and today we're going to be getting into another video in our discussion series. So today I want to talk about 10 previously good Pokemon from Regulation C that are seeing no play in Regulation D. And when going through this list, I'm kind of going to discuss what are some of the better options of the Pokemon, which may be a reason that it's not seeing play, or what's something that's causing it to struggle that makes it not good in this format or harder to use to where it's not worth playing with, right? So starting off our list, we're gonna go with our poster boy for this video, and that's gonna be King Gambit. So why King Gambit? King Gambit has been a staple in VGC for Scarlet and Violet since Series 1 Regulation A, as well as Regulation B Series 2 and Regulation C Series 3. It's been good in all those formats, and why? Because it's a good answer into like the Arcanines, the Gyarados, or any of the random Intimidate mons that you usually would see on the team. And it has really good typing. Although it is 4 times weak to fighting, you can't get away from that by tearing it. Some terrors that have been good for it has been Fire Terror. Fire Terror has been really good for it, as well as Flying Terror. Flying Terror is kind of like how it started, right? When I first started seeing it, it was like Assault Vest with Flying Terror. And then it transitioned to like Fire Terror to get around Arcanine burning it, and then as well as like Water Terror, with just being a really solid defensive terror, right, on a Pokemon. Then I start to see like a set pop up that was like Dark Terror. Excuse me. Dark Terror with black glasses. Let's see, black glasses. And like Swords Dance, right? And this was a really threatening set because with all dark type attacks too. It didn't have any steel type attacks. So I feel like this set was like probably my favorite version of King Gambit that I saw. I did like how much pressure that it did put on with the black glasses. So excuse me, something in my throat. So in my opinion, King Gambit is really good. I think it still can be good in this format, but I feel like it's pressured by a lot. Urshifu is one of the most common Pokemon in this format, and you'll see that Urshifu is probably a common cause of something that causes a lot of these Pokemon to struggle. And this Urshifu pretty much can just go for a close combat into it, one-shot you, and it kind of forces you to terror, right? And Urshifu's attack is really high. It's base 130. So this set, like Terror into Dark, doesn't really save you from taking like a lot of damage from that up front. And then Urshifu has a fighting type, so it already resists that, right? So that's kind of makes King Gambit want to struggle. Even though it may be like good into Landorus. Landorus can it's not gonna try to burn you. It's just gonna give you an attack boost, and then maybe Terror into something and just be bulky and just go for like an Earthquake into you or something Tantrum, and just try to knock you out that way, right? So that's kind of why King Gambit, is struggling a little bit. And some better options for it. So let's look at Defiant users, and I guess we consider competitive users too, right? Annihilate is still, in my opinion, has fell off a little bit, but I think it's a little bit underexplored in this format. I think it's really good. We haven't seen the Defiant, Thunderous, and Tornadus, right? So there's really not much other Defiant users that are better than King Gambit, right? You would only count Annihilate. But I do think that Galarian Zapdos is underplayed right now. I do think as the series progress and we see like the regression of Regieleki because of Iron Bundle, Regieleki's not around as much. I think that Zapdos is kind of going to rise because it is good into Urshifu. I don't believe you outspeed. You do outspeed. You do outspeed Urshifu. So you're faster than Urshifu and you can pressure it into tearing as well. So I think Galarian Zapdos can be really good. But this is what, King Gambit's competition is, right? And Annihilate is still a really good Pokemon. It's immune to Fake Out. It has that Ghost typing. It has the Rage Fist. And it's really bulky, right? And it can't be hit by Urshifu's certain strikes. Close combat, and you don't have to tear it. You might want to tear it into water to get around surging strikes, but it's not like that's gonna always KO you if you're bulky, right? But King Gambit, you're getting one shot if you don't tear it by close combat. You can't protect in front of it. That's really bad for like a Pokemon that's really slow. So that's kind of why King Gambit is, you know, number 10 on this slot. It used to be really good in the other 3 series, especially Regulation C, but now it's kind of taking a, you know, a dive off the cliff. But I'm interested to see as the meta progresses if it ever comes back, but I don't think that it will in this current regulation. So our next Pokemon that we're gonna be talking about is Excalibur. So Excalibur was sort of common in Regulation C. It was really good into a lot of the ground types that were in the meta. It was weak to Flutter Mane, but it likes to terra into like poison and water, and it can really beat Flutter Mane. But just a good terror on this, or just a terror anything away from the fairy weakness, and just KO Flutter Mane with like loaded dice, and Icicle Shard, Icicle Spear. I always say Shard, Icicle Spear, right? And you can pretty much beat the Flutter Mane that way, right? So Excalibur was good in its own right. Right now, let's see, I don't believe there's a lot of competition for what it wants to do. It's just that it's inherently weak into like the fighting types, which is close combat. It's a little bit slow in the matchup against Chien-Pao Dragonite, right? They're just gonna be Ice Spinner in you and Extreme Speed Choice Band you before you get a chance to move, right? And there's not really a Terra that can save you from that. And if you want to go for Steel Terra, then you're kind of like missing a Terra out on something else on your team. So these are like some of the dragon types that are in. Dragonite, of course, is just killing this slot. I do believe Garchomp is better than it right now, but Garchomp's not seeing any play itself. And Dragapult, right? So I guess we can put Garchomp here. I didn't have Garchomp on this list. I completely forgot about it, but it's because it hasn't been seen, right? So we'll give like a little honorable mention right now to Garchomp and put it on this list next to Excalibur. And they're kind of like in the same boat to where they're both not really being seeing a lot of play right now, right? And it's not due to like there being better dragon types outside of Dragonite, but Dragonite, it is going for Choice Band Outrage, but for most part it's becoming a normal type, right? So it's not really its best competition, right? So that's kind of why Excalibur is not seeing that much play. So getting away from these, our next Pokemon on the list is gonna be Oranguru. So Oranguru was actually really good in Series 3 Regulation C because of it being like a consistent Trick Room setter in a meta that didn't really revolve around Trick Room, and Trick Room wasn't that common, but it was able to like do really well next to Iron Hands and Torkoal, and just like going for Instruct with under Trick Room and just giving the Trick Room user another means to like get another move off to like get rid of substitutes, and it was always Mental Herb, right? So you just couldn't get taunted. And Inner Focus or Symbiosis if you wanted to go for Telepathy if you wanted to go for like Earthquake next to Oranguru with like Iron Hands and Ground Terror. It was really consistent. And then you know you got it did get Encore, which is good slow Encore, and the Trick Room, which is fast Encore. In the Trick Room is really good. Foul Play is consistent for hitting things that had pretty good attack. And overall, it was just a really good Pokemon. It was one of the most consistent Trick Room setters, and it was kind of hard to stop it from setting Trick Room and by being like relatively bulky with 90 HP, 80 defense, and 110 special defense. Right? You would have to terror something into its same typing to get that boost in order to like just one shot this thing naturally, right? And so, and it could also get Brick Break to like break through screens. So it was good utility Pokemon. What's kind of causing it to struggle right now, I would say, is Cresselia just being an overall better Trick Room setter, more bulky, more consistent. It doesn't have to waste its ability by, or it doesn't have to have ability that only allows it to not be hit by its teammates. By Levitate just being a better ability to avoid your teammates like ground move earthquakes and stuff like that, but also just being good at avoiding like your opponents like ground moves and things like that, right? So I feel like Levitate's overall just a better ability than Telepathy, because mostly the moves you were going next that were going to hit Oranguru would probably be Earthquake, right? So now Earthquake doesn't hit you, but also your opponent's ground moves and things like that can't hit you, right? And you're not attached to the ground. So that's just, you know, Cresselia is just a better overall Trick Room setter. They're both psychic types. It is immune to Ghost, but Terra, Cresselia is a good user of Terra. And like Terra Fairy, Terra Water, Terra Dark are all really good Terras on Cresselia. So that's kind of why we don't see Oranguru anymore. And a lot of things, it's not really anything that can cause it to struggle in this format. I think that if you want to use Oranguru in this format, you can use it. It's just for the simple fact that there's a much better Trick Room setter than a Rangaroo, right? And that's kind of what the issue with it is and what's keeping it from seeing more play. All right, so moving down our list, our next one is going to be a combination of two Pokemon, Tyranitar and Lycanroc. So we pretty much saw these two together always. Let's kind of clear our list out a little bit so we can maneuver a little bit. Actually, let's put them back. Well, what did I have? Garchomp, Excalibur, King Gambit. I kind of want to make a box. I think that's what I should have did initially. So we're gonna redo this, and we're gonna make a box. Right. Spoilers, you might have been able to see a couple of my teams I've been working on. I got a lot of teams. I'm really into team building. It's really fun for me. And I'm gonna start to make more content based around team building and teaching you all how to team build. If you're interested in that and like some of the tools that I use to build my teams. So I will have a video like that coming out soon. What is it, Garchomp? So Garchomp is an honorable mention, but I still want to go ahead and leave it on this list. And then we had a Rangaroo. All right. So here's another sneak peek. We'll go ahead and exit that off and come here. All right. So what I said, Tyranitar and Lycanroc. So we all know the reason why this is not seeing any play, right? It's not that it's not good, because I still think that it can be good. This is usually Sand Rush. I think that it can be good, but being 4 times weak and having a Terror in front of Urshifu is not good. The Flying Terror set, in my opinion, has just become too predictable, right? And with Chien-Pao Dragonite being in this format and being really oppressive, I feel like it could deal with Chien-Pao Dragonite back in Regulation C, but I don't know why now it seems like in Regulation D it feels like it would just shred this, right? Because you got the Sacred Sword to this. It knows you're gonna tear in the flying, so it can just click Ice Spinner into you with no drawback, by the way, because you don't resist ice. It's not bad to click Ice Spinner into this just to get neutral damage, right? So you're not losing anything by clicking into that. And if it doesn't tear, you're just one-shotting if you decide to click Sacred Sword, right? And then this, even though it's rock type, like Choice Band Extreme Speed is still two-shotting you, right? And that's not good. And also with Urshifu and Tornadus being one of the common cores running around, it just immediately removes your weather, right? And then you're just slower than Urshifu if it has Scarf. And then it's just gonna KO you with Surging Strikes through your Focus Sash, right? And that kind of holds this combo back. And I'm interested to see if somebody can try to make Tornadus and Lycanroc work instead of Tyranitar, because Tornadus does get Sandstorm, and like manually set the Sandstorm whenever you would like to and see how that would work. But I don't think that is gonna be that good. So yeah, this kind of struggles into the current meta right now, and Tyranitar just not being that good right now as a teammate next to Lycanroc kind of causes it to struggle a little more. And also just like I said, Urshifu being around and fighting coverage being, you know, a luxury right now. Hisuian Gudra does this combo really bad. Like it could just set up in front of you. You can't really deal with it quickly enough. If it tears in a fairy, then you're not doing anything against it, right? So that's the idea. That's the idea behind that one. So moving on to our next slot, our number 6 slot is going to be one of probably some of your favorites of Gen 9, Great Tusk. So Great Tusk was one of my favorites too, probably in my top 10 favorite new Pokemon coming in this generation. I really like the color on it. I like that it's a ground type and fighting type, which is, you know, really unique coverage to hit both of those sides of the spectrum. Only really completely walled by flying types, but everything else you do pretty good into, right? And a lot of the people, like in Regulation B Series 2, the main set was kind of like Focus Sash, and then you would see like some Life Orb variants with Substitute, right? And then when we moved to Regulation D, the Scarf variant became the most common, and it was actually really good. Like Scarf Tusk just outspeed everything except things on Booster Energy was just really good. It did not like Booster Energy, Flutter Mane, and Arm Bundle. for the fact that you have to terror, they can one shot you. But it was a lot of ways to play around that with your teammates, and like setting up like certain win conditions and stuff for your Great Tusk in the end game to just click Earthquake next to a flying type, or just click Choice Scarf, Headlong Rush. And in my opinion, that was really strong, right? This Pokemon used to be really good. Some things that cause it to struggle right now is that while you do hit Urshifu for neutral damage, you're not good in the Tornadus, right? Tornadus is one of the most commonly used Pokemon right now. And if you could run a Scarf set and go for Rock Slide and hit the Tornadus, but now you're locking in the Rock Slide and you can't hit the Urshifu, right? And then the last move was probably Earthquake. Then you can't hit the Urshifu. And then if you lock into one of these moves, Tornadus can, if you drop your defenses, Tornadus can just one-shot you with not Windbolt Storm. What's that move called? It just slipped my mind that fast. Bleak Windstorm. Yeah, Bleak Windstorm. It can just one-shot you with Bleak Windstorm. Like, Great Tusk does not want to deal with it. I could see some teams like with a Sunny Day. Like, you don't want to have Bleak Windstorm with Sunny Day, right? You probably want to have Heat Wave and then Sunny Day. And then you can kind of Earthquake next to it. But then you just kind of just lose to Urshifu Tornadus. It's going to set up the ring. And then Urshifu, if it's a Choice Scarf, it can outspeed you because it's naturally faster than you. And then you have to terror. If you don't have a good terror, you're just getting one shot in the rain by Surging Strikes. So that's kind of what's causing it to struggle a little bit. I don't believe there's really... Let me see if there's any ground types that are inherently just better than it right now. Garchomp is not really seeing any play. Landorus is, of course, both of these are just better ground types, but they kind of play a different role. This Landorus is meant to kind of be like a support and be kind of annoying for your team, pivoting in and out. It likes to pivot, right? And then like pick up KOs when it's able to, like sneak a KO. Great Tusk was never the pivot type. It likes to be all out offense as soon as it comes on the field and just pick up KOs, right? And it kind of has a similar role to this, like this Landorus, where they're both kind of frail and both just want to be on the field and pick up KOs and not pivot. But this is on the special side, right? And as a special attacker and having like the sheer force, like you're just doing a lot more damage and you're not just completely walled by the same things that walled Great Tusk. So like that's just really its competition, right? And Ursaluna is also like another ground type that's really good. But the difference between this and although they're both physical type attackers, the normal coverage is a lot better in this format right now due to what's common in the format, right? And also like being a Trick Room user, a Trick Room sweeper, I might say, makes Ursaluna just a better Pokemon. Like you can't really use Great Tusk in Trick Room. It is like a middling speed to where you can set up Trick Room and it can underspeed some of the fast metas, but like it's not really good against like the priority, like Choice Band, Extreme Speed, and Ice, Sucker Punch and Ice Shard from Chien-Pao. Like while you do resist the Sucker Punch, like it's still just doing a lot of damage to you, right? Chipping you down, and you don't want to be chipped in Trick Room and not be able to pick up KOs. So that's my opinion on that. I do feel like Great Tusk is not done for. I do feel like the meta has to suit it, right? Maybe in like a restricted format, like just having that ground coverage, like when Zacian comes back, like being able to potentially just one-shot Zacian is going to be like really good for it. And Zacian can't really one-shot you with, right? Well, I guess if it play rough you, it can. But like going for like, I would say maybe a Poison Terror to resist like everything and just neutrally take the Behemoth Blade will be a good Zacian counter. But this just isn't the format for it, right? So that's my opinion on Great Tusk. All right, so moving on to our next one, we have this is our top 5. So this is top 5, Talonflame. A lot of you are like, wow, I probably totally forgot about Talonflame. Yep, but Talonflame was, a very common Pokemon. It was the second, well, probably the best Tailwind setter next to Murkrow. It's kind of debatable depending on what you want for your team. But like Fast Will-O-Wisp was really good. Priority Tailwind unless your Gale Wings are broken, but you're always like Ghost Terror, so you can get around your Gale Wings being broken. And then they rarely carried Fair Blitz. It was just like Brave Bird and then Taunt, so you deal with the Mungus. And then probably like Covert Cloak or Safety Goggles. And this was just a really good set right here. I seen some adaptations to where Talonflame ran like a no item and then Acrobatics. Like this was a pretty scary set that I saw that like you can go for priority acrobatics, and then you don't have to worry about breaking your gale wings, right? So you can still get tailwind up later. And I think like an adamant nature, this was able with flying terror, it's able to one shot Fluttermane, which was kind of like a crazy set that was kind of developing, right? So what's making Talonflame struggle is that it's a fire type, and if you don't have like something special about you being a fire type, you're not really good into the current meta that's dominated by rain archetype with Urshifu and Tornadus. Tornadus brings the rain, which you don't like, and it's also Tornadus is also a tailwind setter, just like you, right? So and then Tornadus can get hit and still go for priority tailwind, which is just inherently better. Like it's actually like pretty egregious that Talonflame got nerfed like this, because I know that this ability probably was broken back when it was introduced in like Gen 6, but right now I feel like they can bring it back to what this ability normally used to be, and I feel like Talonflame wouldn't be overpowered. I feel like it would be right on par with Tornadus and any other priority tailwind setter, right? I don't think that it needs this nerf anymore with how high the power level is, right? So that's my idea behind that. I still think Talonflame is a good Pokemon. It's just this is not the current meta for it. I think it's better in like in regional decks. I think when the decks opens up a little more, it kind of like knocks it off. I do feel like they need to correct this ability back to what it was originally used to be. That it continues to get priority on all its flying moves, regardless of whether it's broke or not, being at full HP. But so moving on to our number 4 slot, we have one of our favorite intimidators of last season, which was Gyarados. Gyarados ended up, taking off with the Citrus Berry set. You pretty much saw this everywhere. It was Steel Terror or Poison Terror. In my opinion, I like Poison Terror. Just so I feel like Steel Terror, like turning like being like resisting fire and then becoming weak to it. I kind of didn't like the idea of that, so that's why I wanted to go with Poison Terror instead. So then Waterfall, Taunt completely shut down Amoonguss, right? And then you have Thunder Wave, which is just really annoying. It does like the opposite of what Arcanine did. Instead of burning, you're Thunder Waving things, you're taunting. And then also like you could go Protect to Scout for like Tech Thunderbolt, since you're 4 times weak to Electric, so you don't get like surprise KO by that. You can go with the Dragon Dance just to make your, Waterfall, to make Gyarados a little bit faster. Than with like Dragon Dance and Thunder Wave, you outspeed everything pretty much without, that's not like on its own like speed boosting nature or ability / weather or tailwind, right? And then you can just go for Thunder Wave and then go for the Waterfall, so you can get the flinch and paralysis chances, right? And that made Gyarados like kind of annoying to play against. Then of course, like it's an Intimidate mon, so it wants to switch in and out. I did also see like some tech Iron Heads. I feel like Iron Head was a really good tech on this, right? Because the fact you can, instead of just going for Waterfalls, now you can pressure Fluttermane with a 1-hit KO with a little bit of attack investment. Like 125 base attack with a little bit of attack investment. Fluttermane does not like dealing with that. And if you went to Steel Terror and got the the boost on it from Terror and the Steel type, you're doing really well into Fluttermane, right? So Gyarados was like a kind of a soft Fluttermane check and like a hard Amoonguss check. And with those two being like some of the most common Pokemon in Regulation C, that's why this Pokemon was actually pretty good. And moving on to our number 3 slot, which is another Pokemon that's very similar to Gyarados, just on the other spectrum, we go with Arcanine, right? And it's crazy because Arcanine really shouldn't be on this list, because I feel like if the counter form of it, Arcanine, Hisuian Arcanine, didn't exist, people would still find a way to make Arcanine exist. Now you're saying, okay, this is even weaker into Urshifu than this, but it kind of has like the new toy syndrome, and also like it's like we never had like Arcanine has been around forever, right? It's always been the main like Intimidate mon and like in decks without that aren't expanded, and then when Incineroar comes, it's kind of like a worse Incineroar, right? But we never had like Arcanine have like another typing, right? Another stab, so it can do something besides just click Flare Blitz. Now it can click Flare Blitz, Rock Slide, and E-Speed, right? Plus Will-O-Wisp and then Protect. And it's kind of just a lot more fun to use it. It's not like this Arcanine is inherently better than this Arcanine, but it's the fact that it's like a new toy syndrome. It does feel like it's a little bulkier. It does do better into Chien-Pao Dragonite because you can intimidate the Chien-Pao and you can resist the dragon. And now you can invest like defensively into this with HP, and you can do well into like the extreme speeds, right? They can't really do anything with you. And with terrestrialization, like terrestrializing into a grass type feels like it helps this more than it helps this. And you can still like throw safety goggles on this and like just be annoying to Amoonguss, and then you can like probably go like Water Terror or something like that, so you can do well into Urshifu, right? And it just, like I said, it just feels like if you're using this in this meta and you're making this work and it's not like really hurting your team, then if this didn't exist, you can use Arcanine, right? And that's just my opinion on that. I do feel like if Arcanine didn't have a counterpart, it would still be around this meta. But the fact that this Arcanine is new and more fun to use, that's why Arcanine is not really seeing any play. Of course, like it being weak to Urshifu could cause it to struggle, but Arcanine, it's a good intimidate. It's naturally bulky. It has terrestrialization. It can find ways to play around Urshifu and like go for Water Terror and burn Urshifu and cause Urshifu to like really not be that effective in this match, right? And burning Urshifu is kind of the only ways to really slow it down. So that's actually like, you know, a good kind of counter into it. And even though they know that you're gonna tear in front of it, sometimes you can read that and know that and expect them to expect you to tear and just don't tear, and then kind of make plays like that, right? So I do feel like Arcanine is supposed to be good right now, but its counterpart is why it's not. And maybe as time goes by, we'll see that the 4 times weakness to ground and water is too great to have to force this to always terror. And then the trade-off for having the rock stab and some of the rock resistance is not worth it. And then maybe people will go back to Arcanine if Incineroar doesn't come, right? So that's my idea behind that and why Arcanine is not really seeing that much play. So going on to our number 2 slot, which one? Okay, we have, now this Pokemon was everywhere in Regulation C, Ting-Lu. So Ting-Lu was one of the best Pokemon in Regulation C, the staple of Regulation C in my opinion, even though Chien-Pao is like, this turns out to be the best ruin overall. I think Ting-Lu was kind of like the face of Regulation C. Like, it really helped deal with like a lot of the powerful special attackers. It single-handedly was one of the reasons why Chi-Yu and Chi-Yu Flutter Mane couldn't just rip through the entire format. Like kind of like how Dragonite Chien-Pao is doing right now. It was the reason that Chi-Yu Flutter Mane couldn't do that. And I feel like when the restricteds come and Kyogre's going around with, you know, Choice Scarf, Choice Specs, Water Terror, Water Spouts, you're gonna need like Water Ting-Lu to resist that with like next to a Gastrodon and like your ability dropping a special attack of that, and then trying to like KO or chip down the with Ruination, chip down the Kyogre so it can't go for those Water Spouts, and it's force clicking like Origin Pulse, right? And that's what's gonna make like Assault Vest, like this is gonna be a really good counter into Kyogre when Kyogre gets here. Like this next to Gastrodon, because Gastrodon is at its best when Kyogre's in the format because it's completely immune to that, and it can't hit you with a Thunder move. Sometimes it doesn't even carry the Ice move. Sometimes it's like 2 Water moves and an Electric move, right? To hit it the Water types. So this Gastrodon completely walls that set. So even if they do have the Ice type attacks, like with a Water Ting-Lu and Gastrodon, and even if it goes for like Electric into you, the fact that you drop special attack is super effective. It's not going to be doing that much damage to you, right? And then you can, and for that point, you can even go Grass, right? You could go Grass, and then I would rather go Water because I think the clicking Ice Beam into Ting-Lu longer than clicking Thunder, I think is worse because the chance of being frozen is like getting frozen is a lot worse than getting paralyzed in my opinion. So if you go for Grass Terror, you do resist the Water Spout, but it's gonna Ice Beam you. If you go for Water Terror, you resist the Water Spout, but it's gonna click Thunder into you. So in my opinion, I'd rather go for it clicking Thunder. Then once the rain is gone, Thunder's not even 100% accurate. So that's also why I think the Water Terror will be better. But like I say, if it's like a Amoonguss next to Kyogre, then Grass Terror is really good into that. But Ting-Lu's gonna be back. It will be back. It is gonna be good until, like I said, in the restricted format. I think it'll do well into Zacian, even though you can hit you with a Play Rough. Like also like Terra Poison on this, it's like really good in Zacian. Then now you pressure Zacian with like super effective Earthquakes. So it's gonna be back. Just right now, it's not the current metaphor. Urshifu being the best Pokemon in the format is really not good for you. Being forced to Terra into water, and then Urshifu's teammates can kind of like take you down, right? And then also like your ability is not helping you against Urshifu, and also like it pressures you with the close combat. And we all know that from Regulation C, the best way to take down Ting Lu is to either force his teammates to Terra and then go for like very powerful, super effective moves into it, or hitting it with before it has a chance to Terra, surprising it, or just one hitting it or one hit KOing it with like a fighting move or something like that, or like a physical fighting move, physical grass move. That's how we used to deal with Ting Lu. So right now it's not the format for it. Also, you can't really hit Tornadus with the ground moves, and also Chen Pao Ting Lu is a little bit too fast paced for it, right? You're trying to chip them down and they're just killing you before you can do that. So we'll see how it does in the restricted format. Like I'm calling it now, Ting Lu will be back in a restricted format. I see it matching up so well into a lot of those common restricted Pokemon, and also like its ability helping control like the power level of like so much power with terrestrialization. So that's my opinion on that. So before we get to our number 1 slot, I do want to give an honorable mention to Dondozo. Dondozo is kind of similar to Ting Lu, and where I feel like it's gonna have its time, but like I say, Ting Lu's not gonna come back till the restricteds come back, right? That's my opinion. I think Dondozo is gonna show up towards the middle and the end of this format. It's been slept on right now, but I think towards the middle, when like when the format actually like revolves around a certain archetype, Dondozo is gonna come out and be able to do well into any of those archetypes. I believe it's gonna be a very consistent strategy. A lot of people are gonna have forgotten about it and not be prepared for it, and not like have haze and clear smog and like encores and things that kind of deal with Dondozo, and it's gonna kind of take off in that light, right? And that's my opinion on it. So that's why I'm gonna give it an honorable mention, because it's not seeing as much play right now, but I do think on this list is one of the Pokemon that's actually gonna be coming back soon in this current format to being a good Pokemon. So our number 1 slot has to go to our hero, you know, one of the poster boys for Scarlet and Violet, and that's gonna be Palafin. Palafin has been one of the best Pokemon since Regulation A, Regulation B, and Regulation C. It's been very consistent, playing like with Amoonguss and Arcanine as his teammates has always just made it like a really solid core, fire, water, grass core. Bringing back balance and like being able to deal with Trick Room and Hyper Offense at the same time is just really good for it. Being able to switch into these two helps you get around like its weaknesses and its inherent weakness to being, you know, predictable that it has to switch out, right? And then I've seen like Choice Scarf with Flip Turn and Armor Rouge and like that type of strategy. I've seen the Choice Band set when it first came out, where like Choice Band Jet Punches in the Rain was really good. One of the most consistent sets is like Mystic Water, right? With a very powerful Wave Crash, Water Terror, Jet Punch. Could be close combat. Of course, a lot of Pokemon were using Haze. A lot of people were using Haze with this Pokemon in order to deal with Dondozo. And it was an incredible Dondozo counter, right? With the Haze. But this set was like one of the best sets. If you didn't want to like worry about, if you had like Clear Smog on Amoonguss, then you can, because the fighting coverage is really good on Palafin, right? So if you can drop Haze for the Clear Smog and still have a decent Dondozo matchup, like this was an incredible Palafin set, right? And now when you look at this set, this Palafin set, you're like, okay, powerful water type move, priority water move, Water Terror, Mystic Water, Protect. What does that sound like right now? We all know what it is. Urshifu Rapid Strike. So powerful water move, Surgeon Strikes, that breaks through screens, doesn't cause you to have recoil like Wave Crash, and hits 3 times. So it breaks Focus Sash, right? So it's capable of one-shotting things as Wave Crash can't one-shot a Focus Sash, right? It does get Aqua Jet, which is priority water move. Now it is weaker than Jet Punch, plus Palafin had a higher physical attack. But the thing is, Urshifu doesn't have to come in and switch out. So it's Urshifu's ability to go through screens, to go through Protect, and to be able to just stop Pokemon from protecting in front of it it's better than having to switch out to get this attack boost, right? To get your stats boosted. And it uses Mystic Water, just like Palafin, and also it wants to be Water Terror, just like Palafin, right? And get the most out of its water covers, right? And then also close combat, it gets stab on it, so its close combats are hitting harder because it gets stabbed and doesn't have to switch out to get that power on its close combat. And then the tech is also a better move, because if you're going to get something that has Imprison and they Imprison with Protect on their move slot, Palafin can't Protect anymore. Urshifu's still going to be able to click Detect, right? So Detect, in my opinion, is a better move than Protect. If a Pokemon learns both Detect and Protect, you always want to go with Detect, right? For the simple fact that you just won't get imprisoned. Even though that situation is very rare, there's been times where people go with Imprison Protect strategies, and this will help you get around that, right? So you can protect in front of them. So, like, okay, Surging Strikes is better than Wave Crash. The only thing is that Jet Punch is better than Aqua Jet. But if you're not in hero form and you're in zero form, then your Aqua Jets are hitting harder than Baby Palafin's Jet Punches, right? You both want a Water Terror. And Urshifu is not faster than Palafin, so it can't be like as bulky as Palafin. But the fact that you can go through Protect and play on Tailwind, it's a better user of Tailwind, right? Like, while Palafin wants to be on balanced teams and not really utilize Tailwind or Trick Room that much because it likes to go for priority, Urshifu likes to be on Hyper Offense, and Hyper Offense suits this Pokemon because you can't protect in front of it. So it's like this Pokemon was made to be Hyper Offense. It wasn't made to be like a slow balanced player. Even though you can make a balanced core around it, it's always meant to be like an offensive Pokemon that causes your opponent to react immediately. Palafin doesn't cause your opponents to react until it comes back in. It actually makes your opponents a little bit more aggressive because they know they have to switch. Urshifu makes your opponents play defensive, right? So that's just the some of the differences between these two. And that's why you're not seeing any Palafin. Like, I haven't seen one. Like, you're not going to see any Palafin because it's just not worth it. Like, Urshifu just being immediately threatening on the field is just a lot better. And like I said, the only boost that Palafin gets is that Jet Punch is stronger than Aqua Jet, and that hero form Palafin has a higher attack stat than Urshifu's 130. But I'll take the 130 to not have to be forced to switch and be able to go through Protects, right? And that's just a lot more valuable for teams. And, you know, the speed difference is not that great because, like I said, Palafin has never really been a Tailwind type Pokemon, and Urshifu is. So Urshifu is usually going to be the faster between the two because of the play style. So this is going to be my list. Let me know if there's anything that you think I missed, if it's something that you would like to add to this list, or if you something that you think is not deserving of this list and actually has seen some play. This is pretty much, you know, what I believe are the top 10 Pokemon, well, not the top 10 Pokemon plus 2 honorable mentions and a slot that takes up 2 with Tyranitar Lycanroc are the Pokemon that are not seeing any play in this current format, which is Regulation D. So if you like the video, leave a like, subscribe for me, turn on those post notifications because we are trying to grow. I've been making content now for about 2-3 months. I've had a YouTube channel for a long time, but I never used it for content. I was using it just to watch other channels. But now I've been doing content for about 2.5 months, and I'm enjoying it. So if you like these videos, go ahead and subscribe for me. We're growing, and we're going to be building something here. I'm going to continue to update my content and add more things to make it more enjoyable to watch. But go ahead and subscribe for me if you feel like you want to join me on this journey. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, deuces.